An ancient stone wall fits together more perfectly than our best modern machinery can reproduce. This is the engineering paradox of stones that fit beyond modern precision. By the end of this journey, you will see human history in a completely new light. We will investigate how cultures without advanced tools created seams thinner than a human hair, and why a massive block in Bolivia resembles a machine part from the future. What does our inability to replicate these feats say about the story we tell ourselves of human progress? This contradiction is not just a simple puzzle, it is a fundamental challenge to our historical narrative. We call it the engineering paradox. On one side, we have the established story of human advancement, a steady climb from simple tools to complex machines. On the other side, we have physical proof that shatters this timeline in the form of stonework that our own best technology cannot duplicate. The heart of the paradox lies in that impossible fit, the seam thinner than a human hair. Think of the sheer scale involved. These are not tiny, delicate components. They are colossal blocks of granite and andesite, each weighing many tons, often hauled from quarries miles away. The paradox asks how these massive stones were not only moved, but then shaped and polished with such inhuman exactness that they lock together without a gap, sometimes without even the thinnest blade of a knife finding purchase. This goes far beyond simple craftsmanship. It implies a deep, almost intuitive understanding of material behavior, of how stone responds to stress and pressure over centuries. It suggests a geometric precision in their design that seems to belong to another age entirely. This is the core of the mystery. If our ancestors possessed only the simple copper chisels and stone hammers we often attribute to them, how did they achieve a result that would require computer-guided diamond-tipped saws today? The engineering paradox forces us to reconsider everything we think we know about the path of progress. Was it really a straight line, or could it have been a cycle, with knowledge lost and found again across the millennia? This question hangs in the air around every perfectly fitted stone, a silent challenge from the past. High above the modern city of Cusco, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman presents a spectacle that defies simple explanation. Its walls are a breathtaking mosaic of stone, a jigsaw puzzle carved on an unimaginable scale. Each block is colossal, with some limestone giants weighing well over 100 tons, yet they are assembled with a delicate, interlocking precision that leaves no space for mortar. The result is a seamless wall of rock that appears to be a single, flowing structure. Run your hand over the surface, and you would feel no edge, no gap, only a continuous, cool stone face. This is not simple stacking. It is a form of stone knitting, where each massive piece is custom fit to its neighbors in 3 dimensions. The curves are perfect, the angles exact, creating a bond so tight it has withstood violent earthquakes for centuries, while younger, modern buildings in the valley below have crumbled. This resilience points to a profound understanding of seismic activity, as if the walls were designed to dance with the earth rather than resist it. But the mystery deepens with the details. Look closer at the corners of these mighty stones, and you will find they are subtly rounded. The surfaces often feature intricate, almost artistic detailing that seems to serve no obvious structural purpose. Why would builders working with unimaginable effort take the time to add these refined, graceful touches? It suggests that the extreme accuracy was not merely for strength. Perhaps it was a form of language, a symbolic representation of harmony, or even the signature of a technology so advanced that beauty and function were inseparable. The true question is not just what tools they used to shape these behemoths, but what knowledge compelled them to achieve such perfection in the first place? While the walls of Sacsayhuaman speak a language of flowing, organic precision, the stones of Puma Punku communicate in a completely different dialect, one of sharp geometry and industrial logic. Located in the high, thin air of the Bolivian Altiplano, this site presents a puzzle that feels less like an ancient ruin and more like a collection of components from a giant, disassembled machine. The andesite and granite blocks scattered here are not just shaped, they are engineered. You see perfect right angles that look as if they were cut by a master machinist, not a stone worker with primitive tools. You find complex T-shaped slots and interlocking channels carved with a uniformity that suggests mass production, a concept we think of as uniquely modern. The stone itself is a key part of the mystery. Andesite is incredibly hard, ranking just below diamond on the Mohs scale of mineral hardness. Working it with any primitive tool would be a slow, grueling process of abrasion, like trying to carve a brick with another brick. Yet at Puma Punku, the andesite appears to have been handled with an almost casual ease. The surfaces are flawlessly smooth, as if polished by a powerful machine. There are drilled holes that are perfectly cylindrical and consistent in diameter, something incredibly difficult to achieve even with today's power tools. The edges are sharp and precise, showing no signs of the chipping or irregular fracturing you would expect from percussive methods. This level of workmanship implies something profound. It suggests the builders possessed a standardized system of measurement, a repeatable technique for cutting and shaping that allowed them to create these complex, modular pieces over and over again. This was not just artisanal skill, it was a technology, a codified knowledge system. So what kind of understanding of material science did the Tiwanaku people possess? Could they have employed a lost method for softening stone, treating the incredibly hard andesite as if it were soft clay, molding it to their will with tools or techniques we can no longer comprehend? The clues left in the dust of Puma Punku do not point to a slow and steady evolution of stoneworking. They point to a sudden, startling leap into a realm of precision that feels entirely out of place in the ancient world, a sophistication that forces us to reconsider the very definition of primitive technology. Cross a roaring river and climb a steep mountainside, and you will find the fortress of Ollantaytambo, a place where the stone itself seems to defy gravity. Here, the polygonal walls are a masterclass in chaotic harmony. Unlike the orderly rows of bricks in a modern wall, these structures are composed of massive, irregularly shaped blocks, each one a unique geometric puzzle piece. There are no repeating patterns, no standard sizes, yet when these giants were locked together, they created a seamless, monolithic surface that has braved centuries of earthquakes. The secret lies in the very irregularity of the design. By using a multitude of interlocking angles and shapes, the builders created a wall that distributes stress in every direction, a flexible stone web that moves and shifts as one unit during a tremor, rather than cracking apart. This is engineering genius written in rock, but the mystery of Ollantaytambo is twofold. First, there is the question of the journey. The pink granite for these walls was quarried from a mountainside on the opposite side of the valley, separated by the turbulent Urubamba River and steep, treacherous slopes. How did they transport these 100-ton blocks across such a formidable landscape? The conventional answer of log rollers and earthen ramps begins to feel inadequate when faced with the sheer scale of the endeavor. Then there are the stones themselves. Look closely at their surfaces and you will find strange, polished knobs protruding from the faces. These are not natural formations, they are carefully crafted features. Were they simple handles for the ropes of hundreds of laborers to grip as they maneuvered the blocks into place? Or were they sophisticated alignment guides, points of contact for a levering system we no longer understand? Perhaps their purpose was something we have not even considered, a function tied to a lost construction technology. The combination of this immense logistical feat and the microscopic precision of the stone fitting forces a single, compelling question. What kind of mind was behind this work? It was not the mind of a simple stonemason. It was the mind of a master engineer, someone who could visualize the entire structure, from the quarry across the river to the final, perfect joint, and who possessed a planning and design capability that we are only just beginning to appreciate. The journey of these impossible stones begins not at the wall, but deep within the earth. Before a single block could be perfectly fitted, it first had to be freed from the living rock. At ancient quarries, the evidence left behind only deepens the mystery. You can still see the precise channels carved into the bedrock, long, straight grooves where workers somehow separated 100-ton blocks as cleanly as if they were slicing butter. The conventional theory suggests they used simple wooden wedges, hammering them into channels and then soaking them with water to make the wood expand and fracture the stone. But when you look at the sheer scale and the flawless surfaces of the extracted blocks, this explanation feels incomplete. How did they achieve such surgical precision over such vast areas without the massive, guided saws we would use today? The rock itself shows no signs of the violent, chaotic splitting you would expect from brute force. It is as if the stone was persuaded to let go rather than forced. This is the first layer of the quarrying conundrum. The second, even more daunting challenge was the journey. Once a block was free, it had to be moved, often across dozens of kilometers of some of the most rugged terrain on Earth. We picture teams of laborers, log rollers, and earthen ramps, and this may well be part of the answer, but the logistical nightmare remains staggering. Coordinating the movement of a single 100-ton block up and down steep mountain paths across raging rivers without the block cracking or the system failing would be a monumental task even with modern machinery. It required more than just muscle. It demanded an architect's mind for planning and a general skill for organization. This points to a society with incredible social structure and engineering foresight. Yet when we search for their tools, we find only simple implements of copper and stone. This is the core of the disconnect, a gap between the breathtaking capability their work demonstrates and the rudimentary toolkit the archaeological record provides. How do you build a civilization of precision with tools that seem better suited for a simple workshop? Unlocking the secret of how they moved the unmovable is the essential first step to understanding everything that came after. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as the ultimate expression of this ancient paradox on a truly monumental scale. We have all seen its image, a familiar silhouette against the desert sky, but to understand its mystery, you must look past its size and into its impossible perfection. Its base forms a near-perfect square, leveled to within less than an inch across its entire perimeter, a feat that would challenge modern contractors with laser levels. Even more astonishing is its alignment to the true cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, with an accuracy of just a fraction of a single degree. This is not a rough approximation. It is the work of master surveyors who understood the Earth and the cosmos with a clarity that seems to defy their era. This precision was not just in the grand plan, it was in every detail. The pyramid was once sheathed in brilliant white casing stones, polished to a mirror finish. Though mostly plundered over the millennia, the few that remain at the base tell a silent, powerful story. They were fitted together with joints so incredibly tight that they were described as optically flat, meaning their surfaces were so perfectly aligned they could reflect light with almost no distortion. Think of the patience, the skill, the relentless pursuit of perfection required to achieve that on a block of hard limestone or granite. The official tools attributed to the builders, simple copper chisels and stone hammers, feel utterly insufficient against such a standard. Copper is a soft metal. It would blunt quickly against granite, making the precise shaping of these flawless surfaces a seemingly endless Herculean task. How could a society achieve such inhuman consistency over the decades, or even centuries, such a project would have required? The sheer scale of the labor is one thing, but the unwavering maintenance of microscopic precision throughout is another entirely. It points to a system, a codified and transferable knowledge that allowed generation after generation of workers to execute a plan with perfect fidelity. The pyramids do not just ask us how they were built, they force a more difficult question. Have we, in our assumptions about the past, completely overlooked the evidence for their true methods? Perhaps the copper tools we find in the archaeological record were merely for finishing touches, while the real work of cutting and shaping was accomplished with something else, a technology that has left no trace or one we simply fail to recognize. To solve the riddle of the pyramid, we must move from the grand structure itself to the intimate marks left on the stone, searching for the ghost of a cutting technique that could slice through granite as if it were soft clay. Granite yields to a simple copper chisel with frustrating difficulty. The soft metal blunts and deforms long before it makes significant progress on the incredibly hard stone. This is the fundamental problem at the heart of mainstream explanations. The accepted theory suggests builders used a slow, grinding process of abrasion. They would have employed a slurry of sand and water, rubbing it between a stone or copper tool and the rock surface to slowly, grain by grain, wear it down. For simple shapes, this method is plausible, but when we apply it to the evidence, it begins to fray at the edges. How do you use a loose, gritty slurry to create the perfectly sharp, 90-degree internal corners found on the blocks at Puma Punku? Abrasive sand naturally rounds edges, it does not create them. How do you achieve an optically flat surface over a square meter of granite using only a handheld rubbing stone? The slightest inconsistency in pressure would create dips and waves, yet the surfaces we find are flawlessly true. The sheer time required to accomplish this level of precision on just one block, let alone thousands, becomes almost unimaginable. This gap between the proposed method and the final product has led to a search for other answers. Could the ancients have possessed diamond-tipped tools? While natural diamonds exist, creating a stable, effective cutting edge from them is a complex art. Others propose advanced saws, perhaps with mechanical power, that could make repeated, precise cuts. There are even more intriguing theories involving chemistry. Legends and some fringe experiments suggest the use of plant-based acids or other chemical agents that could temporarily soften the surface of the stone, allowing it to be molded or carved with relative ease, like working with stiff clay. Then there is the puzzling evidence of vitrification, a glass-like sheen found on some ancient stone surfaces that suggests the rock was exposed to extreme, focused heat enough to momentarily melt its surface. Could they have harnessed the power of the sun with massive lenses or mirrors to achieve such an effect? Each of these ideas has its champions and its skeptics, and none are without their own set of challenges. But they all share a common origin, the conviction that the simple tools in the museum display cases cannot possibly tell the whole story. The mystery of the cut is profound, but it is only half the puzzle. How did they lift these perfectly shaped, impossibly heavy stones and slot them together with such hair-thin accuracy? Deep beneath the sands of Saqqara, a different kind of precision hides in the dark. The Serapeum is not a temple of open courtyards and towering pillars, but a silent, subterranean world of tunnels carved from the living rock. And here, resting in niches along these corridors, are the great stone boxes. Each one is a single, enormous block of granite or basalt, polished to a sheen and weighing as much as 70 tons. To stand beside one is to feel a profound sense of disproportion. The sheer mass is overwhelming, yet the surfaces are impossibly refined. Run your hand along the inside, and you would feel a smooth, cool flatness that seems to belong to a laboratory, not an ancient tomb. The corners where the walls meet are sharp, perfect 90-degree angles, with no sign of the rounding or variation that hand tools inevitably leave behind. It is as if the entire interior was milled by a machine, a giant's version of a modern CNC router, ensuring absolute consistency across every square inch. Then there are the lids, slabs of stone so heavy their movement seems impossible. They do not simply rest on top, they slot into meticulously carved grooves running along the inner rim of the box, fitting with such intimacy that they create a seal that feels almost airtight. What was the true purpose of such an effort? The official explanation is that these were sarcophagi for the Apis bulls, sacred animals in ancient Egyptian culture. But this practical answer feels strained when held against the obsessive perfection of the work. Why would a burial container for an animal, hidden away in a sealed crypt where no one would ever see it again, require a level of precision that pushes the boundaries of modern engineering? The effort seems utterly disconnected from the function. This hidden perfection forces a difficult question. Was this meticulous work driven by a spiritual imperative, a belief that the soul required a vessel of flawless geometry to journey to the afterlife? Or does it point to a technological capability that was simply part of their standard practice, a skill so commonplace for them that they applied it even to objects meant for eternal darkness? The Serapeum does not just challenge our ideas about their tools, it challenges our understanding of their motives. It reveals a culture that pursued perfection as an end in itself, leaving behind a legacy in stone that feels less like a relic and more like a quiet, deliberate message from the past. The final act of this ancient construction process presents its own profound puzzle. After a stone was quarried and shaped with impossible precision, it then had to be joined to its neighbor with a seam thinner than a human hair. At sites across the globe, these are known as dry joints, connections so perfect they required no mortar at all. To stand before one of these walls is to witness a magic trick in stone. You can press the blade of the thinnest pocket knife against the seam, and it will not penetrate. The two surfaces meet with such complete intimacy that not even air seems to find a passage. This level of fit is not just about careful grinding, it speaks to a controlled and repeatable assembly process. How could such consistency be achieved with blocks weighing dozens of tons? One compelling idea is that the builders employed a system of templates and guides. Perhaps they used wooden or stone frames that acted as a master pattern, allowing workers to check the profile of each block against its intended partner again and again during the final polishing. This would transform an act of supreme artistry into a manageable, almost industrial procedure. Another theory points to the subtle geometry of the stones themselves. Look closely at the faces of some Incan blocks, and you might detect a slight, almost imperceptible bulge at the center. This convexity is not a flaw. It is thought that when two such stones were pressed together, these high points made first contact. The immense weight of the block would then cause it to settle, grinding these tiny peaks against each other until the two faces achieved a perfect, full-surface contact. It was a self-sealing mechanism, a brilliant solution that used the stone's own mass to complete the final, microscopic fitting. Some have even proposed the use of a temporary slurry, a thin paste that filled the last remaining voids and then somehow dissolved or hardened into an invisible bond, leaving no trace for modern chemists to detect. Yet no residue has ever been found, and the stones themselves remain the only witness. The assembly of these structures demanded more than just physical strength. It required a deep, intuitive grasp of geometry and an almost prophetic understanding of how stone behaves under pressure and over time. They were building for millennia, designing joints that would grow tighter with each passing earthquake. How did this knowledge become so widespread, appearing in cultures separated by oceans and continents? The answer seems to lie not in a single lost tool, but in a forgotten art of stonemasonry, a complete philosophy of construction that married immense power with microscopic attention to detail. This art raises a haunting possibility. Could the true purpose of these impossible fits extend beyond simple engineering? Beneath the clear, blue waters off the coast of Japan lies a structure that blurs the line between nature and human artistry. The Yonaguni Monument is a massive sandstone formation, a sprawling complex of terraces, wide steps, and towering pillars that sank beneath the waves at the end of the last ice age. What makes it so compelling are its stark, geometric forms. You see sharp, 90-degree angles where walls meet. You find perfectly straight, parallel trenches that run for meters without deviation. There are flat platforms that look like ceremonial plazas and staircases with steps of unnerving regularity. The entire site feels organized, intentional, as if it were designed with a purpose. The central question is a fierce debate among geologists and archaeologists. Could the relentless, random forces of ocean currents and tectonic shifting alone carve something that looks so deliberately planned? Natural sandstone often fractures into flat plains, but it rarely produces such a concentrated collection of perfect right angles and symmetrical features. Adding to the mystery are what appear to be carved channels and circular depressions that seem to serve no natural erosional purpose. If this is all just a fantastic quirk of geology, it is one of the most convincing illusions on Earth. But if human hands are responsible, the implications are staggering. It would mean that an unknown culture over 10,000 years ago possessed not only the skill to shape solid rock with precision, but also the capability to do so in an underwater environment or on land that would later be swallowed by the sea. This places the monument's potential creation in a period we consider pre-civilization, a time when humans were supposedly simple hunter-gatherers. The precision of the carving, if artificial, fits perfectly into our engineering paradox. It suggests that the drive and ability to create these impossible stone fits was not confined to the Incas or the Egyptians. This could be evidence of a global phenomenon, a lost chapter where advanced stoneworking knowledge was far more widespread than our history books allow. Yonaguni forces us to expand our search for answers beyond the deserts and mountains, into the silent, hidden world beneath the ocean. It is a powerful reminder that the most profound clues to our past may not be in the places we expect to find them, but waiting in the depths, covered by the slow march of time and rising seas. These perfect stone joints are not just a matter of physical skill, they are a manifestation of a deeper intellectual achievement. The precision we see in the stonework is mirrored by a profound understanding of numbers and the movement of the heavens. Many of these ancient sites are not randomly placed, they are deliberately aligned with celestial events. A temple corridor might be positioned so the rising sun on the summer solstice illuminates its inner chamber, or a massive wall might point directly toward a significant star on the horizon. These are not rough alignments, they require incredibly accurate angular measurements and a long-term observational record, a plan that had to be maintained perfectly over the many years or decades of construction. The builders were not just working with stone, they were collaborating with the cosmos itself. This deep astronomical knowledge would have been impossible without an equally sophisticated system of mathematics. The Great Pyramid is the ultimate example. Its base perimeter, when divided by its height, gives a value extremely close to 2 times pi. This ratio between a circle's circumference and its diameter seems to be encoded in its very shape. Similarly, the proportions of its inner chambers and outer form often reflect the golden ratio, a special number found throughout nature and art that represents a unique kind of harmony. These are not accidental features. They reveal a culture that understood complex geometric principles and could express them on a colossal scale. The practical application of this knowledge is where the mystery becomes tangible. We can imagine teams of surveyors using ropes and stakes to lay out the foundation of a pyramid or a temple. They could use simple geometry to create perfect right angles and straight lines stretching for hundreds of meters. The real marvel, however, is how this initial plan, scribed in the dirt, was translated into a mountain of stone with almost no deviation. How did they ensure that the 1,000th block placed was as perfectly aligned as the first? This level of consistency across such a vast project suggests a rigorous system of quality control, a mathematical backbone that guided every single step of the construction. The stone itself was the final expression of a blueprint written in numbers and stars. This interplay between cosmic observation and earthly engineering reveals a holistic worldview, where building a lasting structure was as much a spiritual and scientific act as it was a physical one. So the question shifts from how they cut the stone to how they thought about the universe. Their architectural genius may have been rooted in a language of mathematics that we are only now beginning to fully appreciate, a language that allowed them to converse with eternity. Ed Leedskalnin's Coral Castle rises from the Florida landscape as a monument to one man's stubborn secret. Working entirely alone from the 1920s to the 1950s, this slight, 5-foot-tall Latvian immigrant single-handedly quarried, carved, and positioned over 1,000 tons of oolitic limestone. Each block is a colossal weight, with the largest stones rivaling the mass of a full-grown whale. He did much of this work under the cover of darkness, shunning observers and leaving behind only a cryptic claim. He said he understood the secrets of the pyramids. The precision he achieved is both playful and profound. He built a massive revolving gate carved from a single piece of stone, a door so perfectly balanced on a simple automobile, bearing that the push of a single finger can swing 9 tons of rock. It rotated seamlessly for decades, and when it was finally taken off its pivot for maintenance in the 1980s, a team of engineers with modern machinery struggled for weeks to rehang it. They could never quite restore its original, effortless perfection. This was not just a feat of strength, it was a demonstration of a deep, intuitive understanding of leverage, balance, and center of gravity. The official explanation points to the simple tools found on his property: blocks and tackles, homemade winches, and metal tripods. But for those who study the site, these objects feel like props in a magic trick. They explain the basic principles of physics, but not the sheer, elegant efficiency with which one man manipulated such impossible weights. How did he lift a 30-ton obelisk into place by himself? How did he shape the stone with such clean, sharp lines using only hand tools? Coral Castle stands as a powerful, modern echo of the ancient paradox. It proves that the gap between accepted capability and physical reality is not just a problem of the distant past. Here, in the 20th century, a single individual recreated a mystery on a smaller scale, demonstrating that the principles of lost precision could be rediscovered, or perhaps never truly lost at all. This forces a difficult but exciting question. If one man with a claimed secret could achieve this, what does that imply about the collective knowledge of an entire civilization dedicated to such work? The enigma of Coral Castle bridges the ancient and the modern, pushing us to look not just for complex machinery, but for simpler, more profound principles of physics that we may have overlooked. The stone itself holds the final testimony, etched into its surface like a forgotten language. When we examine the tool marks on these impossibly precise stones, we are reading the literal fingerprints of the builders, a forensic record of their methods. At sites across Egypt and South America, the granite and andesite bear distinct grooves and striations, patterns that tell a silent story. These are not the chaotic, rough scratches left by brute force. They are consistent parallel lines, often with a uniform depth and spacing that suggests a steady, unvarying motion. This kind of mark is the signature of a saw, but not one pulled back and forth by human hands alone. The rhythm is too perfect, the pressure too constant. It points to a powered motion, a mechanical process that could maintain an inhuman level of consistency across meters of the hardest stone. Perhaps the most telling evidence comes from ancient Egyptian drill cores. In pieces of granite, we find deep, cylindrical holes. The spiral groove left by the drill bit inside these cores is stunningly uniform. It shows a consistent feed rate, meaning the drill advanced into the rock at the same speed throughout the entire process. Achieving this with a simple, hand-powered bow drill is incredibly difficult. The natural variation in human strength and rhythm would create an irregular, wavering pattern in the groove. The perfection we actually see suggests a tool that applied steady, downward pressure and rotational force simultaneously, a combination far easier to achieve with a machine than with muscle alone. Other surfaces show a different kind of clue, a flawlessly polished finish that feels smooth as glass. This mirror-like quality is exactly what you would expect from a modern diamond-tipped blade, which cuts by abrasion, grinding the stone away at a microscopic level to leave a near-perfect surface. Yet we have never found a single ancient diamond drill or saw blade. This is the great disconnect. The evidence in the stone tells one story, a story of advanced, efficient machining, while the objects in our museums tell another, a story of simple copper chisels and stone hammers. Some researchers have dedicated themselves to bridging this gap, attempting to replicate the ancient marks using reconstructed tools. They use copper saws with abrasive sand and bow drills with makeshift bits. While they can certainly cut stone, the results are never quite the same. The cuts are slower, the grooves are less regular, and the polished surfaces lack the flawless optical quality of the originals. The experimental marks look like what they are, the product of immense human effort. The ancient marks, by comparison, look like the product of a refined technology. This discrepancy is not a small detail. It is the central clue in a millennia-old mystery. The ghost of a lost technique is still visible, frozen in the stone, waiting for us to understand its meaning. Far to the west of the Andes, the ancient citadel of Mycenae rises from a rocky Greek hillside, its famous lion gate standing as a silent sentinel. This is not the flowing, organic masonry of the Incas, but something equally formidable. The walls here are called Cyclopean, named for the mythical one-eyed giants who were once believed to be the only beings strong enough to have built them. The name fits the scale, but it completely misses the subtlety. These massive limestone blocks are colossal and irregular, yet they lock together with joints so tight they seem to vanish into the stone. The sheer weight of the lintel block above the lion gate is staggering, a multi-ton slab poised perfectly over the entrance for millennia. Its careful placement is a masterclass in structural engineering, designed to channel immense forces down through the jambs and into the earth, a testament to a deep understanding of load and stress. How did they achieve this precise fit with such seemingly haphazard shapes? The secret likely lay in a meticulous process of measurement and trimming. Builders may have used wooden templates or simple string lines to map the unique contours of each stone, painstakingly abrading the contact surfaces until they matched their neighbor perfectly. This was not a random piling of rocks, it was a deliberate, intelligent assembly. The Mycenaean style proves that the principle of precision fitting was a universal solution, independently discovered or perhaps shared across vast distances. It achieves the same result as the walls of Sacsayhuaman: incredible durability and a surprising aesthetic harmony born from perfect contact. The persistence of this knowledge across cultures, from the mountains of Peru to the hills of Greece, forces a profound realization. We are not looking at isolated flashes of genius, but at the scattered fragments of a much broader, more sophisticated understanding of stone. Mycenae adds a powerful new voice to this global chorus, a voice that speaks not in perfect right angles, but in the enduring strength of a perfect fit. The stone itself was not just a passive block waiting to be carved, it was an active partner in the process. Ancient builders possessed a profound, almost intimate understanding of geology, selecting materials with the care of a master chef choosing ingredients. They knew that granite and diorite, with their immense hardness, could be polished to a mirror finish and would hold a razor-sharp edge for thousands of years, resisting erosion and wear. This is why they reserved these stubborn stones for the most critical components, like the sarcophagi in the Serapeum or the load-bearing joints at Puma Punku. For other tasks, they might choose a softer limestone, which was far easier to quarry and shape for massive fill blocks or decorative carvings, even if it would not preserve the same microscopic precision over the ages. This was not a random selection. It was a calculated decision based on a deep, empirical knowledge of material properties, knowledge gained through generations of hands-on experimentation. They learned to read the stone to understand its grain and its hidden weaknesses. Some researchers propose they even learned to listen to it. The idea of sonic or vibrational techniques is not as far-fetched as it might seem. Imagine finding the resonant frequency of a massive granite block, applying a specific pitch of sound that travels through the crystal structure, causing microscopic fractures to propagate along natural planes of weakness. This could allow a builder to split a 100-ton block from a quarry face with surgical precision, using nothing more than a carefully tuned vibration, a controlled fracture that would require only a fraction of the effort of brute force. This would explain the clean, almost glass-like separation faces we see in some ancient quarries. This lost material mastery is the silent, overlooked partner in the precision paradox. We focus so much on the cutting and the lifting that we forget the first, most critical step, knowing which stone to choose and how to persuade it to break in your favor. Their genius lay not in fighting the material, but in collaborating with it, using its own inherent properties to achieve results that seem to defy logic. This intimate relationship with the very substance of the earth suggests a wisdom that goes beyond simple tool-making, pointing toward a holistic science where the builder, the tool, and the material were all part of a single, integrated system. Scattered across the Diquis Delta in Costa Rica, hundreds of stone spheres lie as if forgotten by giants. These are not rough, natural boulders, but objects of stunning geometric purity, carved from a tough, volcanic rock called gabbro. Their sizes range from small enough to hold in your hands to colossal orbs over 2 meters across, weighing many tons. The true marvel is not their existence, but their perfection. Their sphericity is so precise that surface variations are a matter of mere millimeters. To create such a flawless round form without the aid of a modern lathe or digital calipers is an engineering puzzle in its own right. Each sphere is a testament to a relentless pursuit of the ideal shape. The unknown artisans began by roughly shaping a block of gabbro, a stone notoriously difficult to work with. The accepted method suggests they used even harder river cobbles to peck away at the surface, followed by endless hours of grinding with sand and water to slowly smooth the form. But how did they maintain such perfect curvature? One compelling theory involves the use of a simple but brilliant template system. Builders could have constructed a wooden or stone frame with a fixed radius, a giant compass of sorts. They would repeatedly check the sphere against this master curve as they worked, painstakingly abrading any high spots until the entire surface conformed to the template. This would explain the incredible consistency found not just on one sphere, but across hundreds of them. This was not a random act of crafting. It was a standardized, repeatable industrial process. The purpose of these spheres is a mystery that deepens their significance. Some were found arranged in alignments, perhaps tracing celestial patterns or marking territorial boundaries. Others stood in groups near the dwellings of the elite, possibly as symbols of power or cosmic harmony. Why would a society invest such immense, focused labor into creating objects with no obvious practical function? The answer seems to lie in the value they placed on geometric perfection itself. The sphere, a shape with no beginning and no end, represented an ideal, a concept so powerful it was worth manifesting in solid stone. This shifts our understanding of ancient precision. It was not solely for constructing earthquake-proof walls or airtight sarcophagi. Here, precision was applied to create portable objects of profound cultural and possibly spiritual importance. The stones of Costa Rica broaden the scope of the entire paradox, proving that the drive for perfection was not confined to architecture, but was a fundamental expression of a worldview, a language written in perfect curves against the jungle floor. The silence of the stones speaks of a knowledge we can no longer hear. When the tools we have found seem incapable of creating the artifacts we can still touch, we are forced to consider a startling possibility. What if the true instruments of this ancient precision were not the simple chisels and hammers of our museum displays, but something far more advanced, technologies that have since vanished from the human story? Many researchers now seriously entertain this idea, not as fantasy, but as a necessary conclusion drawn from the evidence. The gaps in conventional explanations are simply too wide to ignore. Imagine a civilization that had mastered simple machines to an extraordinary degree. Perhaps they employed complex systems of water-powered saws, using the relentless flow of a diverted river to drive blades through granite with a steady, unhurried rhythm that human muscles could never sustain. Or consider the potential of wind captured by vast sails to operate pulleys and counterweights, orchestrating the movement of 100-ton blocks with an elegant mechanical grace. The principles were known, but the scale and sophistication of their application may have been far greater than we suppose. Then there are the more enigmatic possibilities rooted in chemistry. Ancient texts from various cultures speak of liquids that could soften stone, of plant-based acids that would make rock pliable like clay, allowing artisans to mold and shape it before it hardened back to its original, flint-like strength. While these stories are often dismissed as allegory, what if they are fragmented recipes for a lost material science? A technology that manipulated the very molecular structure of stone would leave behind no metal tools for us to find, only the impossible results of its application. The most controversial theories point to knowledge of energy sources we consider modern. Could they have harnessed geothermal power from the Earth's own heat, or even understood the principles of electricity? The absence of wires or power plants is not definitive proof. If such knowledge was held by a small, secretive class of priest engineers, and that class was wiped out by war, famine, or natural disaster, the technology would die with them. The tools themselves, perhaps made of precious metals or complex organic components, would have been the first items looted, melted down, or simply rotted away into dust. The greatest hurdle for the lost technology theory is, of course, the lack of physical evidence. But this absence is not proof of absence. Think of how little would remain of our own civilization after 10,000 years if a catastrophe struck. Plastics would degrade, metals would corrode, and our most advanced devices would be reduced to unidentifiable lumps. Only our most massive stone structures would endure, leaving behind a silent, puzzling testament to a capability far beyond what the scattered remnants of our screwdrivers and smartphones would suggest. This line of thinking does not demand we believe in flying machines or alien visitors. It simply asks us to keep an open mind, to accept that the path of human knowledge is not a straight, unbroken line upward, but a story with missing chapters, some of which may have contained wonders we are only now beginning to suspect. On a remote island in the vast Pacific Ocean, the Moai stand as silent, brooding giants. Their sheer size is what first captures the imagination, but their true secret lies in the subtle language of their form. Carved from a single block of compressed volcanic ash called tuff, each statue is a masterpiece of consistent proportion and anatomical detail. Across hundreds of these figures, the facial features remain remarkably uniform. The strong jawlines, the long, straight noses, and the deep-set eyes share a distinct family resemblance, a cultural signature repeated with unwavering fidelity. This was not the work of individual artists expressing personal whim. It was the output of a society operating from a shared mental blueprint, a deeply ingrained ideal of what a Moai should be. The tools discovered at the quarry, simple stone picks known as toki, seem almost comically inadequate for the task. With these rudimentary implements, artisans first roughed out the colossal shapes directly from the rock face of the Rano-Raraku volcano. The final, refined details, the smooth curves and sharp lines, were then achieved through a patient, relentless process of abrasion, using grinding stones and sand to slowly coax the perfect form from the rough stone. This method required more than just skill. It demanded a generational understanding of the material and a shared vision that transcended any single craftsman. The precision, however, extends beyond the statues themselves. Many Moai were erected upon massive stone platforms called ahu. These foundations are themselves feats of engineering, built with carefully fitted blocks that have endured the island's harsh winds and salt spray for centuries. The creation of the Moai represents a different facet of the precision paradox. It is not about the invisible seam between two blocks, but about the invisible template held in the mind of an entire culture. How did they maintain such strict control over their artistic output across generations? The answer points to a rigid, orally transmitted system of knowledge, where the rules of proportion and form were as binding as any written law. This was precision applied to identity itself, a way of carving a civilization's soul into the very landscape. The Moai are not just statues, they are a declaration in stone, a testament to a people's power, their beliefs, and their unshakable commitment to a perfect, repeating form. The very stone might have been shaped by the voice of the builders. This idea moves beyond the physical and into the energetic, suggesting that the ancient artisans could command sound itself as a tool. Researchers exploring acoustic and vibrational theories propose that specific, carefully controlled frequencies could alter the properties of solid materials. In modern laboratory experiments, we have seen that high-frequency sound waves can cause liquids to form intricate patterns and even make small, solid particles dance and levitate. The principle is one of resonance, where the natural vibrational frequency of an object is matched by an external force, causing it to vibrate with increasing intensity. Applied to stone, a resonant frequency could, in theory, cause the crystalline structure to temporarily become less rigid, more pliable, almost like a thick liquid. This would make the granite or andesite far easier to work, allowing for precise cutting with minimal physical force and explaining those impossibly smooth, polished surfaces that show no signs of tool marks. The evidence for this profound sonic knowledge is etched into the ancient world itself. Many of the most precise sites are also remarkable for their acoustics. Echoes behave strangely in certain Inca chambers, and the underground oracle room at the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni in Malta is a stunning example. This carved stone chamber resonates at a specific, low frequency that falls within the range of human hearing, a profound hum that vibrates through your very bones. This frequency is known to alter brainwave patterns, potentially inducing trance-like states. Why would a culture design a room that doubles as a musical instrument for the mind unless they deeply understood the tangible power of vibration? This knowledge would not be limited to shaping stone. Imagine the application for transportation. If you could generate a resonant field beneath a massive block, you could dramatically reduce its effective weight and the friction with the ground. Legends from multiple cultures speak of stones being moved by the sound of trumpets or chanting, stories we have long dismissed as myth. But what if they are fragmented memories of a real technique? A team of workers using specially tuned drums or chanting in unison could create a standing wave that made a 20-ton block glide across the earth as if it were on a cushion of air. This theory is without doubt highly speculative and sits on the fringe of mainstream archaeology. Reproducing such an effect on a large scale with any reliability remains beyond our current capabilities. Yet it persists because it answers so many difficult questions. It explains the absence of conventional tool evidence and the superhuman scale of the logistics. It presents a vision of ancient engineering that was not noisy and brutal, but harmonious and efficient, a collaboration with the invisible forces of physics. This invites a radical shift in perspective. Perhaps the true lost technology was not a complex machine, but a forgotten science of vibration, a way of convincing the stone to move itself. Long before the first stone was laid at Stonehenge or the Great Pyramid rose from the desert, the islands of Malta were home to a people whose architectural ambition defies time. Their megalithic temples, like the colossal Giwith, dot above Gantaja and the intricately carved Haga Kim, stand as silent, weathered giants. These are not simple stone circles, but complex, multi-roomed structures built with massive limestone blocks, some weighing many tons, fitted together with a mason's intimate care. The walls curve inward in graceful, cloverleaf patterns, enclosing spaces that feel both monumental and strangely organic. What kind of vision could conceive of such flowing architecture in an age we consider primitive? The precision is not just in the joints, which are remarkably tight, but in the very conception of the structures. The builders shaped these enormous stones to create corbelled roofs, where each successive layer projects slightly inward, a brilliant technique for spanning open spaces without arches. They carved intricate facades and altars directly from the stone, integrating art and architecture into a single, unified whole. This reflects a sophisticated, almost instinctual understanding of load-bearing principles and architectural aesthetics. They were not just stacking rocks, they were engineering sacred spaces designed to last for millennia, and they succeeded. The tools available to them, as far as we have found, were simple stone balls, obsidian blades, and perhaps wooden implements. With these, they achieved finishes that speak of almost unimaginable patience, a prolonged process of grinding and polishing that transformed rough limestone into smooth, shaped forms. This was not a quick endeavor. It was a cultural obsession, a drive to create something permanent and perfect that must have consumed generations. The temples of Malta force a profound question. Why would a small, isolated island society dedicate such immense resources to a project of such staggering precision, especially when their daily survival was surely a constant concern? The answer seems to lie in a world where technical knowledge and symbolic meaning were inseparable. The precision of the stonework was likely part of its sacred power, a physical manifestation of a cosmic order they sought to reflect on Earth. This deep-rooted paradox, appearing so early and so far away from the Andes or Egypt, suggests that the drive for perfection in stone is a fundamental, and perhaps universal, thread in the earliest chapters of the human story. The flawless joints in these ancient walls were far more than a construction technique. They were a language, a physical prayer carved in stone. In cultures that saw the universe as a delicate balance of sacred forces, a building was not merely a shelter. It was a miniature cosmos, a deliberate echo of the divine order governing the stars and the seasons. To construct a temple or a fortress with imperfect, chaotic seams would be to create a place of spiritual disharmony, a flawed vessel unable to hold the power of the gods. The immense, almost obsessive labor required to achieve that hair-thin perfection was not wasted effort. It was a necessary offering, a tangible demonstration of a society's devotion to cosmic principles. For the Inca, this belief was profoundly intimate. They did not simply place stones together, they married them. The perfect fit was believed to make the structure spiritually alive, a permanent part of the living Earth itself, or a hub that channeled the planet's unseen energy. This symbolic power transformed the work from a chore into a sacred duty. Why would a culture pour generations of labor into joints that were invisible from a distance? Because the value was not in the visual effect, but in the invisible result, the creation of a space that was holy, protected, and aligned with the fundamental truths of their world. This cultural lens reshapes the entire engineering paradox. It moves the mystery from the workshop to the human heart. The question is no longer just how they achieved such precision, but what powerful belief was so compelling that it justified the monumental cost. The stones fit perfectly not only because of advanced technique, but because the worldview of the builders demanded nothing less. The sheer scale of Baalbek redefines our understanding of ancient ambition. In Lebanon, the ruins of a magnificent Roman temple complex stand upon a foundation that defies belief. This is the platform of the Trilithon, a name given to 3 colossal limestone blocks that form its base. Each one is a mountain in its own right, measuring over 60 feet long and weighing an estimated 800 tons. To put that into perspective, that is the weight of 2 fully loaded jumbo jets. Yet, these behemoths are not simply dumped into place. They are fitted together with joints that are perfectly tight and perfectly level across their entire, impossible length. The precision achieved on such a scale is a different kind of marvel altogether, one of controlled power and unwavering accuracy. How do you ensure a seam is flawless when the stone on either side is heavier than most modern cranes can lift? The answer seems to lie in a lost art of macro-engineering, where the principles of precision were applied to forces we can barely comprehend. The mystery, however, begins a kilometer away in the quarry. Here lies the stone of the pregnant woman, a partially extracted block that makes the Trilithon stone seem almost manageable. This single piece of rock is estimated to weigh over 1,000 tons. It was cut free from the bedrock with the clear intention of being moved, but it was never budged. Its presence in the quarry is a silent, haunting question. What system did they plan to use to transport a 1,000-ton stone? The conventional Roman toolkit of pulleys, winches, and capstans, powered by human and animal labor, begins to strain against such a mass. The logistics become a nightmare of coordination, requiring the flawless effort of thousands of workers moving in perfect harmony on a surface that could support such concentrated weight without collapsing. This implies a social organization of breathtaking efficiency, a civilization capable of marshalling and managing human effort on a scale that rivals the physical monuments they left behind. While the Romans are celebrated for their aqueducts and roads, the foundation at Baalbek pushes the known boundaries of their technology into the realm of the nearly impossible. It stands as a powerful, tangible limit case, a place where the official story meets a silent, stubborn mystery written in 1,000-ton stones. Modern engineers have tried to answer the paradox with their own hands, attempting to recreate the ancient feats with the tools we believe were available. The results are humbling. Teams of skilled stonemasons and engineers armed with copper saws, stone hammers, and abrasive sand set out to cut and shape granite in the same way. They can indeed cut the stone, but the process is agonizingly slow, a grueling battle of attrition against an unyielding material. The surfaces they produce are rough and wavy, lacking the optical flatness of the ancient originals. The sharp, perfect internal corners found at sites like Puma Punku remain frustratingly out of reach, as the loose, gritty sand naturally rounds every edge it touches. Lifting and moving multi-ton blocks is another challenge altogether. Using reconstructed wooden cranes, ropes, and earthen ramps, they demonstrate that moving massive weight is theoretically possible. But it demands an army of coordinated workers, perfect conditions, and a tolerance for immense risk. A single misstep could shatter the block or cost lives. Yet, even when they successfully move a heavy stone, the final and most elusive step remains, achieving that legendary hair-thin fit. This level of precision demands more than just strength. It requires a supernatural patience and a tactile, intuitive feel for the stone that modern industry has largely rendered obsolete. The replication efforts prove one thing with certainty. The theoretical possibility of these methods is a world away from the practical, flawless execution the ancients demonstrated every time. We can mimic the broad strokes, but we consistently fail to capture the master's signature, the invisible detail that makes the work immortal. This persistent gap suggests we are not just missing a tool, but perhaps an entire philosophy of work, a mindset where time was no object and perfection was the only acceptable outcome. High on the stark Bolivian plain, the Kalasasaya temple at Tiwanaku stands as a monument to integrated genius. Its platform is a grand stone calendar, where every block serves a purpose that is at once structural, artistic, and celestial. The builders used both massive sandstone slabs and the incredibly hard andesite, fitting them together with the seamless joints we now expect from this culture. Yet here, the precision extends beyond the physical lock of stone on stone. Look closely, and you will find carefully carved channels and symmetrical niches cut into the masonry. These are not random decorations. They function as precise sightlines, framing the rising and setting sun on the equinoxes and solstices, turning the entire temple into a colossal astronomical instrument. This was a place where architecture captured the rhythm of the cosmos. The entire complex is oriented to the cardinal directions with an accuracy that could only come from generations of patient sky watching. How did they maintain this celestial blueprint over the decades of construction, ensuring that the 1,000th stone placed was as perfectly aligned as the first? This implies a stable, long-term tradition of knowledge, a school of astronomer priests who could encode their observations directly into the very fabric of their most sacred buildings. The ultimate symbol of this synthesis is the gateway of the sun, a single monumental archway carved from one block of andesite. Its surface is a tapestry of intricate bas-relief, featuring a central deity surrounded by rows of perfectly symmetrical geometric patterns and what appear to be winged figures. The sheer consistency of the carving is breathtaking. Each line is sharp, each angle crisp, as if drawn by a master draftsman and then executed with a tool that never wavered. This is not the work of a chisel guided by a trembling hand. It is the product of a steady, confident technique, a method that allowed for no errors on this sacred, unforgiving canvas. The gateway itself is believed to have served as an astronomical marker, its position and iconography all tied to a complex calendar system. This fusion is the true heart of the Tiwanaku Enigma. The precision was not compartmentalized. The same culture that could move and shape 100-ton blocks with machine-like accuracy also possessed the artistic sensitivity to carve stories in stone and the intellectual depth to map the heavens. At Kalasasaya, the wall is a clock, the gateway is a calendar, and the stone itself is a permanent record of a civilization's conversation with the universe. This forces us to see these ancient sites not just as triumphs of engineering, but as holistic creations where science, art, and spirituality were woven together into a single, unbreakable thread. These stone walls were designed to dance with the earth, not fight it. In the earthquake-prone Andes, the very precision that creates the mystery is the same feature that grants these structures their incredible longevity. The secret lies in the joints. A mortar-filled wall is rigid, a single, brittle unit that will crack under the seismic stress of a tremor. But a dry stone wall, with its intricate, interlocking puzzle of blocks, behaves differently. Each tightly fitted stone is an individual component, free to shift and grind minutely against its neighbors, absorbing and dissipating the energy of an earthquake throughout the entire structure. It acts as a natural shock absorber, a seismic dampener built into the very fabric of the architecture. This flexibility prevents catastrophic failure. The wall moves, it settles, but it does not collapse. The builders likely learned this profound truth through centuries of harsh experience, watching lesser structures crumble while their most precise creations stood firm. This created a powerful feedback loop, where the observable success of a technique ensured its preservation and refinement across generations. Precision was not an abstract artistic goal. It was a direct and pragmatic response to environmental necessity. It was a matter of survival. This practical wisdom extended to the very stone they selected. They chose dense, crystalline rocks like granite and andesite, not just for their hardness, but for their resistance to weathering. These stones laugh at wind and rain, resisting the erosive forces that would quickly wear away a softer sandstone. The survival of these hair-thin seams for thousands of years is a testament to that foresight. This environmental dimension grounds the engineering paradox in a tangible reality. It forces us to see these builders not as mystics obsessed with perfection for its own sake, but as brilliant practical engineers who developed their impossible techniques as the only reliable answer to the violent and unpredictable world they inhabited. Deep beneath the ancient landscape of Cappadocia lies a hidden world of geometric order. The underground city of Derinkuyu is not a chaotic warren of caves, but a meticulously planned subterranean metropolis carved from soft volcanic tuff. While this rock yields more easily to hand tools than granite, the achievement here is one of consistent, functional precision across a vast, multi-level complex. The city plunges several stories into the earth, a vertical labyrinth of living quarters, stables, churches, and wine presses, all connected by a network of perfectly straight corridors and stairwells. This is not haphazard digging. It is architecture in reverse, carved with a draftsman's eye for line and angle. the entire city breathes through a sophisticated ventilation system, with shafts drilled with unwavering accuracy from the deepest chambers all the way to the surface, ensuring a constant supply of fresh air even when the massive stone doors were sealed. These doors are the masterstroke of Derinkuyu's defensive precision. They are immense stone wheels carved from solid rock that slide effortlessly within perfectly fitted grooves to block key passageways. The fit is so exact that these multi-ton plugs could be moved by a single person from the inside, yet they created an impenetrable barrier against any intruder. This seamless function in a life or death context reveals a profound truth. The ancient drive for accuracy was not reserved for temples and tombs meant to impress the gods or last for eternity. It was applied with equal rigor to a purely utilitarian refuge, a place of last resort for thousands of people. The builders of Derinkuyu did not have the space for error that open-air construction might allow. Every inch was calculated, every corridor planned to maximize strength and efficiency in a confined, dark environment. This expands the engineering paradox into a new dimension. It proves that this precision was a versatile, deeply ingrained principle, a fundamental skill that could be deployed just as effectively in the cramped darkness underground as it was beneath the open sky. The same mind that could marry colossal stones on a sunlit plateau could also engineer a perfect, rolling fit for a secret door deep within the earth. The flawless joints we see today were not the work of lone geniuses, but the legacy of a system. Behind every perfectly fitted stone stood generations of disciplined artisans, bound together in guilds or schools that preserved and refined their craft. In the sprawling workshops of ancient Egypt or the highland communities of the Inca, a young apprentice would not simply learn to swing a hammer. He would be immersed in a complete tradition, a living library of techniques passed from master to student over a lifetime. This was a world of oral knowledge where the secrets of quarrying, the feel of different stones, and the geometry of a perfect cut were memorized, practiced, and perfected through relentless repetition. The consistency we see across massive projects where the 1,000th block matches the first is the direct result of this rigorous, standardized training. It was a system designed to eliminate individual error and produce a collective, unwavering standard of quality. The knowledge transferred was more than just skill. It almost certainly included proprietary formulas, perhaps for abrasive slurries that cut more efficiently, or chemical treatments that softened hard rock surfaces, giving these guilds a technological edge that was guarded as fiercely as any state secret. The sudden disappearance of these artisan classes is one of history's great silences. A social collapse, an invasion, or a dramatic shift in cultural priorities could sever this chain of knowledge in a single generation. When the masters died without passing on their deepest secrets, the methods died with them. In other cases, the knowledge may have been intentionally obscured, concealed behind ritual and initiation to protect the prestige and economic power of the guild. This human element is the critical, often overlooked dimension of the mystery. The stones themselves are the proof, but the guilds were the mind and muscle that made them possible. Their highly organized social structure provided the stable framework necessary for such long-term, precision work, turning a chaotic individual effort into a coordinated, generational enterprise. This raises a poignant question. Could the ultimate key to the engineering paradox be found not in a single lost tool, but in the broken threads of a forgotten education, a way of teaching and learning that we can no longer comprehend? Out in the vast Pacific on the island of Pohnpei, the city of Nan Madol rises from a lagoon. This is not a fortress of solid walls, but a floating maze of over 90 artificial islands, a Venice built not with bricks but with stone logs. The entire complex is a tapestry woven from countless basalt columns, each one a naturally formed prismatic crystal of rock. These columns, some weighing many tons, were not carved into blocks. Instead, they were used as nature provided them, stacked in alternating, crisscrossing layers like a colossal pile of timber. The genius of Nan Madol lies in this very choice. The builders took a raw, geometric material and engineered it into stability through intelligent arrangement. Each log was carefully selected for its shape and size, then locked into a grid with its neighbors, creating a stable, interlocking wall that needed no mortar to hold it together. The precision here is different. It is not the machined flatness of Puma Punku, but the clever, calculated precision of selection and placement, a perfect marriage between natural form and human design. This entire city, with its canals and courtyards, was built upon a coral reef, a foundation constantly battered by salt water and tropical storms. That these log walls still stand, resisting the relentless ocean for centuries, is a testament to the enduring strength of their fit. The mystery deepens when you consider the journey. The basalt for these columns was quarried on the opposite side of the island. This meant that each of these multi-ton stone logs had to be transported across the dense jungle, then floated across the lagoon on rafts, and finally maneuvered into their exact position in the rising walls. Coordination required is almost beyond comprehension. Why would a society go to such monumental effort to build a city on the water? Nan Madol represents a breathtakingly unique adaptation of a universal principle. It proves that the ancient drive for precision was not a rigid formula, but a flexible intelligence, a way of thinking that could be perfectly tailored to a specific material and a challenging environment, creating a man-made landscape that has defied the sea itself. Solving the precision paradox demands a new way of seeing the past, one that brings together many different kinds of knowledge. Archaeologists can uncover the tools and the context, but they cannot tell the whole story alone. To truly understand these stones, we must invite materials scientists to analyze the microscopic structure of the rock, engineers to model the forces at play in those perfect joints, and geologists to trace the stone back to its exact quarry source. Each field holds a piece of the puzzle. An engineering analysis, for instance, can use computer simulations to show how an interlocking wall redistributes the energy of an earthquake, proving the functional genius behind the seemingly chaotic patterns. A geologist's fingerprint of a stone can reveal not just where it was quarried, but also the specific layer of the bedrock it came from, offering clues about its inherent strengths and weaknesses that the builders expertly exploited. Perhaps the most vital and often overlooked piece of this collaborative effort is ethnography, the oral histories and traditional knowledge preserved by descendant communities can offer invaluable insights. These are not mere legends, but living memories that may contain echoes of lost techniques, descriptions of tools that have long since rotted away, or the symbolic reasons behind a specific architectural choice. A story passed down for generations about how the stones were made to sing could be a metaphorical record of a sonic levitation technique. A ritual involving a specific plant might hint at a chemical process for softening rock. By listening to these traditions with a scientific ear, researchers can form hypotheses that laboratory experiments can then test. This interdisciplinary conversation is slowly building a richer, more nuanced model of ancient capability. It moves us away from the simplistic question of whether they had advanced machines and toward a deeper appreciation of a sophisticated system of knowledge, one that combined a profound understanding of physics with a mastery of local materials and a powerful cultural drive. The paradox, therefore, is no longer a dead end. It has become a catalyst pushing modern science to ask better questions and to look for answers in places it once ignored. The silent stones are finally finding their voices, but we must learn to listen with every tool at our disposal. The Romans built to quench a city's thirst, and their aqueducts stand as monuments to a different kind of precision. Far from the mysterious earthquake-proof walls of the Andes, these structures showcase a mastery of controlled flow, a hydraulic genius written in stone and gradient. The true marvel of an aqueduct is not just its soaring arches, but its invisible, unwavering slope. For water to travel dozens of miles from a mountain spring to a bustling city, the channel had to maintain a perfect, gentle decline, often as little as a few inches for every 100 feet. A miscalculation of a single degree over that distance would mean the water would either stagnate or rush with destructive force. This required surveyors to measure the land with astonishing accuracy, using simple tools like the chorobates, a water level, to plot a course across valleys and hills, ensuring the life-giving current never failed. The stone blocks themselves were part of this hydraulic equation. At the Pont du Gard in France, massive limestone blocks were cut with such geometric perfection that they locked together without any mortar at all. The weight of the structure and the precision of the fit create a seal that has held for 2,000 years, resisting the constant pressure of the water flowing within. This was not a mystery for the ages, it was a repeatable industrial process applied on an imperial scale. The Romans demonstrated that the drive for precision was not confined to sacred temples or royal tombs. It was the bedrock of their civilization, applied with equal rigor to the practical infrastructure that sustained millions of people. Their stonemasonry skills were a versatile tool, adapted for the specific demands of a bridge, a road, or a water channel. This broad application reveals a society that viewed technical accuracy not as an esoteric art, but as a fundamental public utility, a necessary ingredient for building a world that was meant to last. A silent conversation is now unfolding between the ancient past and the most advanced tools of the present. High-resolution, three-dimensional scanning is allowing us to see these stones in a way our eyes never could, mapping every microscopic groove and subtle undulation across an entire wall. This digital fingerprint reveals the ghostly traces of the builder's methods, tool marks, and wear patterns that have been invisible for millennia, offering a new language to interpret their work. Meanwhile, ground-penetrating radar peers into the earth, uncovering hidden chambers and foundational layouts without disturbing a single grain of soil, showing us that the precision we see on the surface might only be the beginning of the story. In laboratories, material scientists employ techniques like X-ray fluorescence and mass spectrometry, conducting a form of chemical archaeology on the stone itself. They search for minute residues, the faintest molecular signatures of plant-based acids, specialized abrasives, or even temporary adhesives that could explain how these perfect joints were achieved and sealed. As these technologies become more affordable and widespread, they migrate from exclusive university projects into the hands of local researchers and global enthusiasts. Online collaborative platforms now enable a form of digital citizen science, where thousands of volunteers can help catalog artifacts, analyze scanned data, and contribute to a collective pool of knowledge that was once locked away in academic journals. This decentralized approach is vital, for the next clue might lie in a remote quarry or a forgotten inscription, waiting for the right pair of eyes to recognize its significance. The future of this investigation promises answers, but it guarantees something else entirely, new and deeper mysteries. Each solved puzzle seems to reveal two more, ensuring the dialogue between our modern inquiry and their timeless achievement remains vibrant and unending. This is no longer a static historical puzzle, but a living, breathing field of discovery where the next breakthrough could come from anywhere, reshaping our understanding of human ingenuity with every new scan and every shared discovery. From the echoing chambers of Malta to the floating city of Nan Madol, we have walked among stones that refuse to fit neatly into our historical narrative. These ancient marvels, from the earthquake-defying walls of the Andes to the machined geometry of Puma Punku, present a consistent and humbling theme, a global chorus of inexplicable skill. We have sifted through theories of lost technologies and sonic mastery, considered the sacred motives that drove such obsessive perfection, and stood in awe of the sheer logistical genius required to move mountains. While the definitive answer to how they achieved this remains just beyond our grasp, the relentless pursuit of that answer has forever changed our appreciation for the depth of human ingenuity. This journey reminds us that the past is not a closed book, but a living puzzle. The secrets locked within these stones may yet hold the key to future innovations, waiting for a new generation to ask the right question. If this exploration of history's greatest mysteries has captivated you, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. The stones themselves may be silent, but the story of their impossible precision continues to speak to us across the ages.